Hi, my name is Gracie, and today I'm going to be doing a little experiment. I'm going to be trying to wear 18th century stays every day for a week. I've previously worn stays for extended periods of time over periods of a few days before, but I've never worn stays every day for a week or anything as long as that. So I'm interested to see what it's like. For those who don't know, stays were the basic foundation garment for women in the 18th century. The purpose of stays is not so much to cinch in the waist as one thinks of when one thinks of a corset, although that's not really the purpose of a corset either, but that's not the topic of this video. But yeah, the purpose of the stays was more to give a fashionable silhouette to the wearer, which in the 18th century was a kind of conical silhouette. 18th century dresses pinned closed over the stays, and in order for the dress to look flattering, it was important to wear a pair of stays underneath, otherwise the dress wouldn't fit properly. And for my experiment, I'm going to be working with 3 pairs of stays that I have made all by hand. The first is this pair of 1780s style stays in a really nice red wool. The second is this pair of 1760s style stays in a nice green wool. And the third I'm wearing. They are a pair of pink 1770s wool stays. Because I have 3 pairs of stays, I'm going to try to wear each pair twice, and whichever pair I like best will also get a lucky third time as well. And to make this more interesting, I'm going to try to wear each pair at least once under my garments as like a basic foundation garment, and also at least once over my clothes as somewhat of a fashion accessory foundation garment double feature. In the 18th century, stays were also worn as like a top. People would wear their stays and then just a petticoat if they were doing laundry or that sort of thing. And so it's not unheard of for stays to be seen. And I've also seen a lot of people wearing stays is like kind of a cottagecore thing on the internet. And so I think it might be interesting to try my hand at styling stays for the modern day. In this experiment, I'm mostly just going to be doing my everyday thing. So that includes going to classes at Zoom University, doing my job, also remote, and walking around, going to the grocery store. I might try to go roller skating in stays and I'll film that. Should be fun. But yeah, this will just be like basically what I do except in stays. And then at the end of this, I'll talk about my thoughts on wearing stays instead of modern undergarments, modern support garments, and whether I recommend them, and if anything else that I learned. So let's get started. On Monday, I wore my pink wool stays over a t-shirt. Modern t-shirts serve the same purpose that shifts did in the 18th century. That is, they protect your skin from chafing and keep the stays clean from body oils and sweat. Over my stays, I wore a cream turtleneck sweater with puffy sleeves, a homemade black skirt, and a rose brooch. As I was walking in my stays, the main thing I noticed was how they pressed against my hips. What I mean is, as I was walking, each time I moved my leg and lifted my hip a little bit, I could feel the stays pressing laterally against the hip. It wasn't uncomfortable, just noticeable. I also noticed that one of the reeds in my tabs had snapped, and the press against my hips was more noticeable on that side of my body. I wonder if this is a case of my stays being ever so slightly too long in the sides, or if this is a problem peculiar to reed stays. On Tuesday, I wore my green stays, once again over a t-shirt. Contrary to popular belief, it is entirely possible to dress oneself in back-lacing stays. No lady's maid required. For these stays, I lace them partially, then shimmy them over my head backwards before finishing lacing the stays. Hopefully, once the stays are fully laced, they're loose enough to be turned around again and tightened to however much is comfortable. Over these stays, I wore a flannel shirt, another homemade skirt, a belt, and a homemade sweater. I noticed as I was fastening my belt that my stays didn't reduce my waist very much at all. In fact, they may have added to its measure. Wearing stays is going pretty well so far. Been wearing them since about noon, maybe since 1, and it's about 4 or 5 right now. I'm just working on studying for my Russian quiz. I apologize for my accent if there are any native Russian speakers watching. But back to stays. They're pretty comfortable. These are stays that I've worn so many times. These are my oldest pair of hand-sewn stays, and so they have definitely kind of molded to my body, which means that they're super comfortable. They feel different than a modern undergarment for sure, but they're not different bad, just different. They're a lot stiffer than my other stays as well because they're fully boned. But yeah, I'm kind of realizing as I'm wearing these that I think I need to make another pair of fully boned 1760s stays. So maybe there'll be a video about that. I think that wearing like a blousier shirt like this one over the stays is better for them being inconspicuous, because this basically conceals the shape of the stays, and it honestly just looks like I'm wearing a sports bra or maybe a binder in these because the shape of them is so flat. But yeah, I will probably update y'all tomorrow. Bye! Wednesday's stays were my red stays, once again worn over a t-shirt. A button-down shirt, homemade skirt, belt, and bandana completed the look. I've been wearing these stays for like 5 or 6 hours, and they're pretty comfortable. These are my favorite stays. I just love the shape that they give and that sort of thing. But as you can see, I took off my shirt that I was wearing over my stays because I ripped out the elbow. So I'm gonna go mend that, and I will include some footage of mending the elbow of my shirt. If anyone is interested in seeing how I mend things, there you go. One thing that I noticed is I had to tighten my stays midway through the day. I think this might just be because I ate like a bagel before I put my stays on. So that will probably do it, but it's definitely interesting. They're tighter than they were earlier today, but they're not uncomfortable. To mend this shirt, I ripped out the previous patch, which was clearly not doing its job. This left me with a squarish hole in the elbow. I believe that the technique of mending that I'm using here is called reverse applique. I picked up a small scrap of linen in a complementary color, folded under its edges, and pinned it in place to the interior of the sleeve. Then I used whip stitches to stitch along the folded edge of the patch, securing it to the interior of the sleeve. Once the patch was secured, I turned the sleeve inside in. The raw edges of the tear in the shirt were carefully folded under and stitched to the patch with whip stitches. The end result is a visible mend that nevertheless looks tidy and preserves the integrity of the shirt. So I was sitting and working on my shirt, mending it. It's done now. And I was noticing that my stays were starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, and I thought this might just be because I'm sitting in a chair weird. But I also figured I may as well unlace them a little bit, and that definitely helped. But as I was doing that, I realized that my lacing cord, I just kind of jammed it up underneath the stays, and it was in a big lump digging into my kidney. And that was not comfortable. So I hope that since I've loosened them a little bit, it'll be a little bit more comfortable. But if you've worn stays before, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you do with your lacing cord when you're wearing stays. I guess some people probably wrap them around their waist, but I've always heard that that's bad for the stays. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, pretty comfortable. Just reading an article, and then I'm probably gonna go on a walk once I put my mended shirt on. I'm really pleased with how the mend turned out. I think the fabric that I chose for mending it looks really nice with the cotton plaid. So yeah, I'll probably update tomorrow. See ya. I'm sorry if the lighting is really bad in this, but I just went on a walk and I wanted to give another little update. The stays are still doing pretty good, but I have been having a little bit of lower back pain, and that might just be like happening at the same time randomly. Like I was having lower back pain the other day when I wasn't wearing the stays. But I wonder if with these stays it's exacerbated by the way that they're shaped in the back. I wonder if the back is a little bit too low so that it digs into the back of my hips rather than flaring over them. So 18th century stays have a waistline that is curved, kind of like that. For contrast, modern jeans or something have a waistline that's just a straight line. And I'm wondering if next time I make a pair of stays from this period, the waistline should be even more steeply curved so that I have a little bit more ease at the top of my hips. Or it could just be that like I'm sitting all day because of Zoom University and that's not comfortable. But yeah, I don't know if it's my stays or what it really means, but yeah, it's not too bad anyway. But yeah, I will update tomorrow. With Thursday's outfit, I wanted to have a little more fun with springy colors, so I wore my pink stays over a mint green button-down shirt. I then paired it with a homemade skirt in rayon patterned with oranges. However, I decided that this was a bit too much springy color for me, and traded my patterned skirt for my favorite black skirt. I'd like to try the rayon skirt with my pink stays again someday, but perhaps not also with the green shirt. On Friday, I wore my red stays over a dress that I found at a thrift shop that looks like a cross between an Edwardian summer gown and a First Communion dress from 1972. Over my stays, I wore my homemade Edwardian-inspired skirt with a shaped waistband. For extra warmth, I layered a homemade knit shawl, and because I intended to go out, I added my red cloak and of course a mask. So unfortunately the car is not working because the car never works, it always stops. We have to bring it to the repair shop, so I wasn't able to go out and show some shots of driving in stays and getting gas in stays. But when I sat down in the car before I realized it wasn't working, it was normal, but one thing I noticed was that I was sitting a lot taller than I usually do, so I had to adjust my rear view mirrors in order to actually be able to see the back of the road, which is kind of interesting, but other than that, there's no difficulty in driving in stays. I've driven in stays before. I don't like driving in general just because I find it stressful, but driving in stays is no more stressful than driving out of stays. So now I think I'm gonna go on a walk instead so that I can maybe get some shots of this outfit. But yeah, we'll see. I'm taking a walk in my red stays. Figured it would be good to update you guys as I'm actually walking rather than just updating after a walk. And also the light is kind of nice outside. One thing that I've noticed that I haven't really talked about yet this week is just like the extent to which I get like a belly pooch with my stays. And that's just because the way stays are made, they redistribute your fat and flesh down like below the waistline of the stays, basically giving you a little belly pooch, which is, it's normal, it's natural. I used to always be kind of embarrassed of it because I was like, oh, this isn't supposed to be the way this is, but that's how stays are. That's how corsets are as well. You're going to have a little bit of a belly pooch at the bottom of your waist, and that's okay. Yeah. Sad I wasn't able to go roller skating today because the car broke down, but I'm going to try to go tomorrow, see if my mom can drive me to the rink, or not the rink, not roller skating inside, see if my mom can drive me to a tennis court nearby, because tennis courts are pretty good spaces for roller skating because they're so smooth. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say. My glasses are getting super fogged up, so I'm gonna sign off. One more update as I'm walking, as I remembered something that I wanted to say. I think the other day I was talking about how I was having some lower back pain with my stays, and one thing that I didn't consider is that one of my hips is slightly higher than the others, so my spine is slightly curved, and I'm wondering if that's the problem that's causing a little bit of lower back pain for me. Like, it's not that bad today. It was just bad that one day. Like, it wasn't even bad. It was like noticeable that one day. I think that was Wednesday. I'm not sure. But I think that might be the reason, because I'm wearing the same stays and I notice a little bit more that my hip on one side presses into the stays more than on the other side. Something to consider at least. On Saturday, I wore my green stays over a white button-down shirt. This was paired with a homemade green skirt and belt and my cardigan sweater for warmth. Roller skating in stays is no harder than roller skating out of stays, as I found out. What made this difficult was that I'm a beginner roller skater, and the tennis court where I was skating was wet and slippery from the day's rain. On Sunday, I wore my red stays over a homemade sweater and once again wore my favorite black skirt. I also tried out Morgan Donner's hair taping tutorial on Sunday, hence my crown braids. So it's been a week of wearing stays, and I have to say I've enjoyed it. It's been fun to style different outfits. I have to say I think that my favorite outfits that I've styled have been the ones where these stays, my red stays, are visible, simply because I think these stays are so pretty. But all the outfits were interesting to style, and I'd love to hear which one was your favorite. I've also learned a little bit about my stays overall, particularly that my green pair are too short. I'm gonna have to make a new pair, and I guess these ones will go up for sale. I've also noticed that there are several broken bones in my green stays that I'll need to replace, as well as several broken bones in my pink stays. So you guys can expect a video about how to replace broken bones in stays, which I think a lot of people who wear stays will find useful. Overall, I was just a lot more comfortable in these stays these red stays because they're boned with German plastic whalebone, which is essentially zip ties. And it was just more comfortable for me because I felt less worried about possibly cracking a reed in my stays. I don't usually worry about cracking a reed in my stays when I'm wearing historical garments, but for some reason, modern life seems to like to break stays. Like one time, this was before the pandemic, I was riding the bus in stays with like a modern skirt, and I broke a bone in my tab sitting down on the bus seat. So I just think that modern life and reed-boned stays don't work very well together. But modern life works great with these plastic bone stays. So I'm definitely going to be making more stays with plastic boning, or maybe I'll look into other materials. Who knows? I don't think that stays are a very good replacement for modern undergarments in the way that corsets are, simply because stays have such an unusual shape, which I definitely noticed when I was wearing them under a sweater on, I think that was Monday. But they're not bad to wear if like your bra is dirty. They're a little bit different looking and they feel a little bit different. I think I'll probably be wearing stays more frequently as outer garments visually because I think they're pretty, but I don't think I'll ever wear stays just like under a t-shirt just because it doesn't really make sense. Like, I'd much rather wear a bra under a t-shirt. And yeah, I think that's all I had to say about this. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. And yeah, this video's definitely gone on long enough, so I'll leave you here. Thank you to you for watching. Thank you to Ollie for their help in filming the roller skating bits, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye!